Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick. It's 512. I am Brendan. UFC Fight Night Vancouver. DeRitter versus Aiemann. We're going to talk about that fight, go through it round by round, talk about what happened. Boy, huge fight for Aiemann. I did not see that coming. Every time that I have doubted, it's so funny. Anyway, we'll talk about that one. Tons of controversy up and down the card. Judging, referee decision, indecision, inconsistencies in their decision making, just a giant mess that we're going to get into. So if you like this kind of thing, subscribe to the channel. That way, the next video is coming out. I really appreciate it. And let's get going. Let's start talking about this first fight. I know I've been gone for a little bit. I've had some stuff going on in my life, and this just took a back seat. But I'm back. Let's talk about some fights. All right, Brendan Aiemann. Did you guys here? Let me ask you at the top of this. Did you guys think Brendan Aiemann was going to win this fight? Let me know in the comments down below. Did you think he was going to win? Now, I consider myself a Brendan Aiemann fan. It started because we have the same first name. I know that's stupid, but there's something inherent. Like, I'm drawn to someone with the same first name as me because it's relatively rare. And then when I find other things that I like about them, like that stands out more than things that I dislike. Do you know what I mean? Right? It's like when someone's nice to you personally. I know this is a weird side tangent, but it's like when someone is nice to you personally, and then you hear from everyone else that this guy's a piece of garbage or this person is a piece of garbage or whatever, but you've never seen it from them. You've never seen it when they interact with other people and they're only nice to you. It's like everything that they do is going to be like your first reaction or interaction with them is going to color your experience with them, right? First impressions type of thing. Whereas if someone were to come ahead of time and be like, oh, this guy's a piece of shit, and then you go and you meet that person, now it's going to color your experience that way. Like you're going to look for those things more often. Anyway, so that's kind of how I am with like first names, or when somebody sends me stuff. In the case of Curtis Blades, sending me a t-shirt. It's just stupid things, but it breaks up the monotony of watching like thousands of UFC fights a year. So anyway, I consider myself a Brendan Aiemann fan, all that being said, and I did not think he was going to win this. I thought that he was kind of going to get bullied as the fight went on. I thought DeRitter was going to find a submission. I figure his pure jiu-jitsu would have been better than Aieman's. I figure the fact that he is bigger, he would eventually, like I said, find a way in a dominant position, and that's kind of how this first round started. You know, I just didn't see a path to victory for Aiemann in here. Because I also figured, I'm like, well, they're both tied. Neither one of them is known for the cardio, right? So that didn't factor into my mind like, oh, Aieman's got a gas tank and he's like gritty and he's going to come back. Like that wasn't a part of my thought process. That's kind of what we saw, though. You know, in the first round, DeRitter eventually gets a takedown from the clinch. I think he had double overhooks even. Double overhooks and then takes him down, gets directly into mount. Then, because he went for the Uchimata. I know, you know what? He got him down with the Uchimata. And then, because he was in the double overhooks. And then he, rides him out, gets tons of control time, 4 minutes of control time, lands some shots to the back of the head. It looked not like the beginning of the end necessarily, but it definitely didn't look good for Aiemann. You're like, oh shit, if this fight keeps going like this. But then a glimmer of hope right at the end of the round. DeRitter gets a little greedy, but really he's just looking for back control. He's trying to throw that hook in on the far side, can't get it in, falls off, and then Aiemann gets on top and was able to land a couple shots right before the end of the round. Does that erase him getting, dominated for 4 minutes? Absolutely not. So he did not win this first round. It was 10-9 to DeRitter, absolutely. But you saw maybe there's a path to victory. It's a small path, but maybe it's there. And then in the second round, things just did not turn out that way at all. DeRitter is landing kicks to the body as he's backing up and Aiemann finding punches, but then they get in the clinch again. And you're like, oh shit, here it goes. And then DeRitter tries to take a back again, right? Fails on it, and Aiemann gets on top, and DeRitter closes his guard from bottom, like even closes the body triangle from bottom, and just stays there for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, just stays there. And Aiemann lands a decent amount of ground and pound, way more damage than anything DeRitter did to him. Even first and second round combined, not that matters for round by round scoring, but just as the fight is going on, and Aiemann all of a sudden It's 1-1. So for me, this third round was going to be really telling, right? Does Allen go to the ground again, knowing that he's got an easy path to victory? Does DeRitter avoid going to the ground that way because he lost some control? Does he stay on the feet? Does DeRitter just, float on top and then just, hold on to him, cum shot style? And, DeRitter gets the takedown, gets to the back, has the body triangle on him, and based off of what Allen said after the fight, you can kind of tell DeRitter was getting tired and he couldn't squeeze his legs together anymore, couldn't hold him in there. Allen spins around and he's on top for the rest of the round, landing ground and pound again. And then next, now DeRitter doesn't want to stand up. He's looking exhausted. In this fourth round, Allen just gets in on a takedown, lifts him up, carries him across the cage, Matt Hughes style. Not quite as high amplitude as far as the slam goes, but definitely, throwing him on the shoulder and carrying him around like a child. And, another beatdown by Allen, just, making him suffer for 4 minutes and 56 seconds, essentially, like the entire round 4. And then DeRitter quits on the stool. So what does this mean for DeRitter? So DeRitter came into the UFC, beaten Gerald Meerschaert. Okay, that's not a given, but makes sense. Kevin Holland. Okay, Kevin Holland's an undersized 185er, but that's not a bad win. Those are Gerald Meerschaert is like you have to win that, otherwise you're not cut out for the UFC. Kevin Holland is up. Okay, 185. It's hard to quantify that one. The Bo Nickel win, again, hard to quantify because he's relatively new. He avoided the takedowns of Bo Nickel and was able to get the finish. So it's the first time Bo Nickel's ever been hit like that. So it's hard to tell. Maybe DeRitter really is that guy, and Bo Nickel, he's really good, but DeRitter's just that much better. Or maybe Bo Nickel wasn't ready for it. Maybe he's never going to be ready. Lots of questions. Then we get to the split decision win over Robert Whittaker. And whether you agree with that one or not, the fact that he had a close fight with Robert Whittaker was telling, right? Like, he did have a close fight with Whittaker, so all right. And then now the UFC is clearly, they fast-tracked him. The Robert Whittaker thing, they're fast-tracking him. They want him to fight for a title. They want a new contender. And as of, last night before this fight, he was ranked number 4. He's one win away. He gets this win and he's in that same conversation as Nasruddin Imavov is. I think Imavov should probably get the next title shot. I still think that. But he's right in that conversation. I don't even know if he beats Brendan Allen, I don't know if he needs another win in the top 5 to fight for a title. I think scheduling might be his biggest enemy in that case, but he's fast-tracked. Hell, they might have fast-tracked him ahead of Imavov because they figured the Kamshad here would be able to beat him easier, and it would be a tune-up fight for Chimaev. So maybe they throw him in there and make Imavov sit. I don't know. That could have happened, but it doesn't. Brendan Allen, number 9, just beats the brakes off of him. It's not even close. And this is Brendan Allen's career. He said it a bunch of times. He's fought the best in the world, and lots of times he loses to those guys. But look at back in the day here, back in 2019. Back in the day, that's not that long ago. He beats Kevin Holland in 2019. All right. Tom Breeze, that's not a bad fight at the time. Kyle Dawkins, that's a great win, especially looking at how Kyle Dawkins is now and how Kyle Dawkins fought at the time. Loses to Sean Strickland. Okay, again, this is Brendan Allen. Carl Roberson, good win. Punahele Soriano, good win. Lost to Chris Curtis. A win over Sam Alvey, Jacob Malkoon. That's a good win, by the way. A great win. Christoph Jotko, good win. Andre Muniz, good win. Bruno Silva, excellent win. Paul Craig, you have to win that one. And then then a win to Chris Curtis. Split decision, but a win nonetheless. And then losing to Nasruddin Imavov and Anthony Hernandez. And you're like, okay, Brendan Allen has hit his ceiling. We've seen it multiple times. Once he gets into this top contender style, these top 5 guys, he's just not going to get the win. Then he beats Marvin Vettori. And you're like, oh, all right. Okay. What's next? And he gets the shot with a guy in the top 5. Arguably, do you think that the Ritter belonged in the top 5 right now? I don't know. Inherently, I would say no. Like, if individual, I would definitely say no, my opinion. But the rankings are what they are. Allen should be in the top 5. This might be the first time in his career he's in the top 5, and he definitely deserves it based off of the rankings. So you put the rankings in there, you don't like them, that's on you. The consequences are now that the guy who beats the number 4 guy should be in the top 5. Yep, that's how that shit goes. Which sucks about this is Anthony Hernandez is number 6. So it'd be weird for Brendan Allen to jump him. But I wouldn't be mad if Anthony Hernandez moved up, Israel Adesanya moved down, and De Ritter's out of there. So you had Hernandez at 4, Allen at 5, Adesanya 6. I wouldn't mind that. And then you put De Ritter back down here, like 8 or 9 or whatever, move people around. So I wouldn't be mad at that. Anyway, as far as the main event goes, it wasn't a barn burner necessarily, but it was entertaining enough. And we need to get moving, though. We need to keep talking about the other fights going on. Let me know what you guys thought about the main event. Did it blow your skirt up? My guess is no. All right, Kevin Holland versus Mike Malott. This was stupid. This was dumb. I mean, this really came down to a foul, just changing the entire course of the fight, and it was unfortunate that it happened the way it did. But Malott ends up getting the win. We don't need to break down round by round too much. I do have a lot of notes, but that we don't need to talk about all of them. Really what it came down to is like this first round. Oh, I wrote down, I was like, Kevin Holland reminds me so much of Donald Cerrone. Not in his fighting style necessarily, just how often he fights, how game he is. The fact that he probably takes fights that he shouldn't have, when he shouldn't have. And, he's a win-loss fighter. He's a loss-loss, win-win-win fighter. Like, he's... it's just the way he is, man. It's exciting to watch him fight, and I find myself drawn to his fights. I'm drawn to him as a fighter, as a person, but it also means he might never win a title, like Cerrone. Every time, I mean, he might get a title opportunity like Cerrone did, but it's unlikely. Based off of his track record, it's unlikely. The divisions that he's currently bouncing between. That's another problem, is he is bounced between 70 and 85, which, again, Cerrone did, 55 and 70. So we'll see as far as what his career holds. But anyway, Holland's doing a decent job. He catches a kick at one point, lands a decent right hand. It doesn't really knock him down, but it could be qualified as a knockdown. I felt like he did more damage in this first round than Malott anyway. The striking numbers were relatively close, 12-9. But here's the thing. This first round, Malott kicks him in the nuts. Okay? They continue, and then Holland out here clowning around, going with a huge uppercut, lands a giant uppercut on him, and busts up his nose pretty bad. Or is that later on? No, that was later on. He busted his nose up. Anyway, this first round, like he kicks him, then Malott knees him in the stomach and then kicks him in the nuts with the shin. And we take a full 5 minutes, and Holland is really in pain. He doesn't want to continue. He doesn't want to say that he doesn't want to continue, though. The doctor comes in between rounds, like the referee talks to him. There's basically 7 minutes have been taken. I guess 7 additional minutes have been taken with this fight. And after this, and then finally, DC's bitching about the fact that this egregious foul had occurred, right? Whether it was intentional or not, it's clearly affecting Holland. And this exact same situation happened earlier in the night. Different referee. Obviously, this one is Big Dan Murgulata. And before I forget the guy's name, in the earlier fight, they took a point. In this one, they didn't. And this is what would have happened in this fight is a draw. This fight should have been a draw because a point deduction should have been made. And it was very obvious that in the second round, Kevin Holland just looked like a shell of himself. We don't need to talk about it. Malott just outstruck him. He outdamaged him as the fight went on. Like in this last round, Kevin Holland outstruck him in the last round. I'm curious here. Let's look at the scorecards. Yeah, everybody gave Malott that last round. I didn't see Holland outlanding him. Oh, it was because he took him down and held him down. Didn't really do much with it. I still think you could have made an argument for Kevin Holland winning this fight. I think Malott, I think if that nut shot doesn't happen, he's clearly the better fighter in here. Mike Malott was good, but Holland, with one testicle essentially, put together a squeaker of a fight. I think with both of his nuts intact, I think he would have won this one. I'm laughing, but this fucking sucks for Holland, especially a guy that's this active. It's just unfortunate that it's going to end like that. But the UFC will get him another fight, and hopefully they take this into account. All right, Marlon Vera versus Aiemann Zahabi. Okay, again, Marlon Vera is a part of a split. Okay, so at some point, you have to take accountability for the fact that your fights end in split decisions or close decisions at some point here, okay? Again, I don't know Marlon Vera. I only can tell you what I see from the way he acts pissy after these fights. He doesn't want to be friends with people. I have no problem with you not wanting to be friends with a guy who's trying to kill you. That's fine. I understand that. Not everybody needs to be Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. That being said, when you're a guy who's got this shitty attitude, outwardly facing, right? I don't know. He's probably a great dude, tips his waiters and takes care of his grandma. I'm sure that's the case, okay? I cannot say anything bad about him as an individual or as a person, but as far as what he's presenting to the world, he looks like a sore loser, a sourpuss, kind of an asshole, right? And so be it. If that's who you are, I applaud authenticity. So I can't be mad just because I can't be mad at him for being himself. Okay, so this is part of my point here. He's upset after every one of these fights, and he's acting like it's everybody else's fault but his own. At some point, you have to take a look in the mirror and realize that you are responsible for your destiny. Like that, I just remember the Song Yadong one, right? That Song Yadong one, he was super upset, right? The loss to Jose Aldo, not feeling great about that one. Then he goes on, he beat Davey Grant, right? But then he should have lost to Frankie Edgar, catches that that front kick, and he's able to get the finish, right? But he was losing that fight too, right? He was a minute and 10 seconds away from losing another decision. The Rob Font one, he landed, he was landing a couple good shots at the end of each round that outdamaged Font and was able to, get the damage number in his favor. But, if Rob Font avoids one of those in each round, right, which is a tough task. I think Marlon Vera's game plan in this one obviously did a good job, and he won this one. The Dominic Cruz fight, again, he's getting pieced up on the feet, and then Vera lands a couple good shots because he's durable. The Corey Sandhagen one, that I don't know how that was a split decision. That should not have, that was a split decision, says who? What? I don't remember that. Do you guys remember this? Oh, I keep clicking on the wrong freaking thing here. Yeah, that was domination by Sandhagen. And you could tell he was just upset about it. Then he gets the win over Pedro Munoz. Then, again, that for the title against Sean O'Malley for some reason, and gets again destroyed for 4 rounds and 4 minutes and 50 seconds. And the last 10 seconds, O'Malley decides to open up and takes a shot. And then all everybody can talk about is, oh, what if Vera had landed that earlier? He wouldn't have. The only reason he found that opening is because O'Malley left it there because he was opening up as well. Gets, taken down by Davison Figueiredo and just, dominated and just not able to finish anything, not able to do anything. And now has a split decision against Zahabi. And each one of these fights, he's always pissy. right? He reminds me of Masvidal. Like, he's just mad all the time that things didn't go his way. And when he does win, he's like, oh, yeah, this is what I expected. Of course it would have gone this way. Like, at some point, you have to take a look in the mirror. That being said, I did score this fight for Zahabi. I thought the first and last round were absolutely clear. I thought there should be no controversy here. Vera had the pressure early. He was landing some good shots. He was landing better shots than Zahabi was early, and Zahabi was kind of downloading, right? The Piotr Jan style. Who else does this? Adesanya, especially earlier in his UFC career, a lot of downloading of information, getting your openings. And I mean that in the he's literally looking for everything, making calculations, and then finding his openings. And then about halfway, he starts the pressure, he starts to do the damage, and Zahabi kept him on the cage. He was able to pressure more often than not as the round went on, and he was landing bigger shots. The thing is, individually, do I think Zahabi landed a single shot that was more impactful than Vera? No, but he landed more shots total and as impactful, sure, right? I think the total damage that Zahabi did was more than Vera's, and the immediate damage that Vera did didn't offset what Zahabi did, right? So I gave it to Zahabi. Then second round, they're trading kicks. Zahabi's staying in range now, so Vera's starting to find some more shots because Zahabi's interacting more, right? Instead of backing up, they're both trying to keep the center, and because of that, now Vera's able to land, right? Vera's game plan of step forward, step forward, step forward until something happens that I don't like, and then run away to land a big shot. He didn't need to do that, because Zahabi was putting himself into the fire, and then Vera lands a jab that hurts Zahabi. He's stunned. Zahabi's on the retreat. He's on the retreat for probably a good minute and a half. And here's where Vera has no one to blame but himself. Nobody to blame but himself. Nobody else was in that octagon except for the referee. I want to give him credit here. Jason Herzog, right? Nobody else is in that octagon. Right? Nobody stopped you from moving forward more and landing more shots. Vera slowed his output and then only went in bursts. My suspicion is he was worried that he was going to, throw too much and get tired, which he has talked about, right? That he's getting more tired because he's doing more stuff. I mean, that's the way this goes, right? If you're going to be a, one shot every 15 seconds fighter and hope that it does enough damage to offset all the damage they're doing to you in those 15 seconds, you're rolling the dice. And now he's rolling he has Zahabi hurt, watches Zahabi, follows him around the cage, and then every so often he'll go, ta, 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 and then that's it. And then no follow-up. And then just more following. You have no one to blame but yourself, sir. Nobody to blame but yourself. You can be pissed at the judges for not seeing what you saw. You can be pissed, but you have no one to blame for what happened except for you. You had him hurt. You didn't follow up enough. And at that point, I had it a 10-8 for Vera. He had it that close to being finished, in my opinion, had he done some follow-up with it. And then Zahabi starts slanging and banging and finding his way back in the round, and Vera starts shelling up. Vera shuts down as the round went on, and look at the striking numbers. Zahabi outstruck him in this round, probably did more damage total to Vera than Zahabi did, than Vera did to Zahabi. That being said, it's clearly Vera's round, right? It's a 10-9 round, but because Zahabi came back, it saved him from getting a 10-8. And then the last round, back to the low output, slower pace, and then Zahabi finds it and starts turning it up, and then he refuses. He just wanted it more. He just refused to let it. He refused to lose. He refused to let it go to the scorecards without him putting his best foot forward, and Vera didn't. And then Vera, shakes his head, throws his hands up, and leaves the cage all pissy. Again, he's a sore loser when he's got no one to blame but himself. Saul D'Amato giving that first round to Vera is understandable, but I disagree with it. Mike Bell and Jack Maxim both giving that first round to Zahabi. So the first and last round to Zahabi. So good scorecards, no problems there. Again, I'm not a fan of Vera. I don't know if you guys can tell that, but I'm not a fan of his, but genuinely, he has no one to blame but himself. Wow, this video has gone on really long. All right, let's speed run this bitch. Bad timing. Saying that. All right. Manon Fiorot versus Jasmine Jasudavicius. Fiorot landing a jab and exiting. She's very it looked like she was uncomfortable with the interactions that she was going to have to get into with Jasudavicius if she was in the range at all. So she was entering and exiting really quick. And then they talked about it as afterwards, because then Fiorot lands this left hand that shakes Jasudavicius, knocks her equilibrium off real bad, and gets the finish. Fine finish, no problem with it. Good finish. Do I think Jasudavicius was knocked out? Absolutely not. It was just her equilibrium was gone, so she had a problem balancing. A good stoppage. It's fine. Dan Reinier did a good job. I don't have a problem with it. That being said, then they tried to do a revisionist history, saying Manon was doing this thing where she was pulling her in. That's why she was retreating. She was pulling her in, looking for that counter, and I'm sure that was part of it, but the way she was moving was as if someone who didn't want to interact with the grappling exchanges at all, and I think it was a byproduct of that more so than an actual go-to game plan. All right, Davey Grant versus Charles Jourdain. Crazy end of this one. Davey Grant, I don't think he's ever been in a boring fight, huh? Right, Grant taking the center, Jourdain with the slick combo, finding the mark with that left hand. Grant is just not getting the head off of center fast enough, and Jourdain is starting to find the mark. Jourdain finding the mark with that big Superman follow-up, and Grant sits down on a right hand and lands back. And then Jourdain lands a flying knee partially, and then he lands a big flying knee and puts Grant down, and Grant somehow stays in it and keeps trying to fight it. But then Jourdain gets on top of him, locks up a guillotine, like a tight-ass high elbow guillotine, and gets the finish. Excellent fight. Super fun. All right. Good God. So now we have to do this again. This video is going to be long. Yep. There was just so much to talk about here. There was just so much controversy. Matt Frevola taking on Kyle Nelson twice. Kyle Nelson having to win twice here. So let's get through the round pretty quick, because I really want to talk about what happened in between. So Frevola's got these bigger movements. He's swinging really big. He's missing a lot, but he is landing sometimes. Nelson doing a good job of landing in the margins, and he's landing well, landing some big shots himself. And then Nelson overswings, blah, blah, blah. So both guys swinging big. Frevola takes a big right hand and ends up on bottom. And Nelson finishes him with some big right hands, and the fight should be over. Right? No. Okay, so with 4 seconds left in that first round, Dan Miragliotta stepped in, and he thought he heard the bell. Which, all right, for those of you guys who don't know, the clapper is an indicator for the referee to start his own personal internal 10-second countdown, just in case the bell doesn't go off. All right, so that's one thing that people don't know. The referees have talked about that in the past. That's why when the clapper happens at 10 seconds, that's why you'll see the referee point to them, right? You'll see him point to them, and then they start the countdown. They go 10, 9, 8, and yes, the human metronome isn't perfect, but it's a safeguard in case that the bell doesn't go off. So in this case, that could have been part of it. It was very loud in there with the Canadian being close to the finish. God dang. Allergies. Like, my nose is just itchy. It's so annoying. So do I believe that Dan Miragliotta possibly heard a bell? Yes. Do I think he might have counted down too fast in his head and not panicked necessarily. I don't think panic is the right word, but made the executive decision to call it when he got to 0 instead of waiting for the bell, which he perceived not to hear. I think that's also a possibility. So what he said might have not lined up with what he actually did. Either one of those things is fine. I'd prefer it if he wasn't a liar, so let's go with the first one. Regardless, he tells everybody to get out of the cage. The fight is not over, even though he looked like he waved it off. And because Frevola wasn't out. Frevola immediately gets back up, and he's ready to go, and he thinks that the round is over. So from Frevola's point of view, do I think 4 more seconds would have ended the fight? Maybe not. So I'm okay with that part. But what I'm not okay with is the giant dump. And then Nelson says, I tried to finish him in that first round, and then now I got to fight him more. That would have happened even if you didn't get the finish, by the way. Like, if the round ended and you didn't get the finish, you'd have the same amount of energy. Maybe the adrenaline dump wouldn't have happened. So then Nelson proceeds in the next 2 rounds. So I gave it a 10-8. The crowd starts screaming, ref, you suck, which is pretty funny. Nelson's landing some big right hands, some jabs. He wins the next 2 rounds. I don't want to get into this. Video is already way too freaking long. But looking at the scorecards here, I think Mike Bell and Jack Maxim both gave that second round to Matt Frevola. I did not. I had it a 30-26. Saul D'Amato. Nobody gave Kyle Nelson a 10-8 round for that first round. Okay. I don't know what we're looking for here, guys. All right, that is it for the main card. The next video is going to be the prelims. Appreciate you all for stopping by. This video has been gone on long enough. Love you guys. Have an amazing week. If you like this kind of thing, subscribe to the channel. That way, the next video is coming out. Peace.